To AP Biology. Today's video is going to be on the value of sexual reproduction. So sexual reproduction basically is designed to mix up our genes. We get a lot more genetic recombination because we're not just counting on mutations, but we're counting on stages in the meiotic process to actually mix up genes. So you have a couple of things going on. You have independent assortment of genes during meiosis 1. You have crossing over that takes place during meiosis 1. And then when gametes are coming together, you have random fertilization of gametes that's also going to cause some variation. So basically what happens in independent assortment is you get you get chromosomes from your mom and you get chromosomes from your dad. So think of it this way. My mom is going to donate some chromosomes to me. My dad's going to donate some chromosomes to me. So I'm a combination of those. When I make gametes, basically what happens is I mix up my mom and dad's chromosomes in my gametes. So there might be a couple mom chromosomes mixed with a dad chromosome and vice versa. And so since I have 23 pair of chromosomes, there's a lot of mixing of the mom and dad chromosomes when I make my gametes. And so independent assortment is going to mix up the chromosomes in my gametes, so my gametes aren't just getting all traits from my mom or all traits from my dad, but actually a mixture of my mom and dad's traits go into making my offspring. The second part of this process is crossing over. Crossing over is going to mix up the genes on the chromosomes. So it's going to take genes from my mom chromosome and mix them with genes from my dad's chromosomes. So this process is going to significantly increase the amount of variation to an astronomical amount. So when I do the process of independent assortment, I can get like 8 million different variations. When you do the process of crossing over, it's infinite number of combinations can come from the process of crossing over. There's basically 3 steps in the process of crossing over. You're going to cross over, you're going to break, and then you're going to refuse. And these breaks and refusions always happen between genes. And so we end up with normal crossing over, swapping of the exact same genes from one chromosome to the other. This really creates a situation where we have an immeasurable amount of variation. We can get lots of variation from independent assortment, but it's so much more from crossing over. So why do we need all this variation in organisms? What's the point of having variety? Well, in species, if the environment never changed and you were well adapted to the environment you lived in, then variation wouldn't be necessary. But we are constantly being placed in a situation where we have new things to contend with. So species out in the wild, they might have new environments to deal with. They might have new food sources to deal with. They might have new weather to deal with, space to deal with. There might be new invasive species that they have to compete with. And so anything that gives them an advantage to take advantage of the situation they're put in is going to be useful. If you look at these beaks, these are beaks from the different islands in Galapagos. These are all finches, and these are beaks from the different islands. And this is primarily based on the availability of food. Some islands you have mostly nuts are the available food. Some islands it's fruit. Some islands it's insects. It varies from island to island to island, and you can see their beaks have been developed for certain characteristics that exist on their island. A nut crushing beak might not be very good at collecting insects, but it's really good at crushing nuts. These variations basically are in species to create a situation where you never know what might be beneficial. Maybe a lighter coloration is super beneficial at a certain time in the evolution of a species, but maybe you reach a point where darker coloration becomes super beneficial. And so the species starts to transform over to being more dark. There's still some light ones around, and so if light becomes beneficial again, then the species can transform back. So populations can change through time based on the environmental conditions and what conditions are each characteristic is more beneficial for. But sexual reproduction is around to create the variation in species, so species can survive when changes to the environment happen, and then certain individuals have better adaptations for those particular changes, and then your species can modify itself over time.